Greetings, everyone. Hope all of you are having an absolutely fantastic day. Lex Imperialis has finally been released, and that means we can review the mechanics for the Arbitrator origin. Earlier today, I provided a review for the Lex Imperialis DLC, so be sure to check out the link for that video below. Of course, we also have access to the new Overseer archetype, but there are a ton of mechanics there, so we'll review them in a separate video. If you haven't purchased Rogue Trader yet and are looking to do so, there's a GOG link down below that you can use. I get a small percentage from that purchase and would definitely appreciate the support. All right, get into the origin. Arbitrator gives you a list of talents you can pick from at level up, and then there are 3 specializations you can choose as well. First, let's review the list of talents. Shotgun Mastery allows you to wield 2-handed shotguns in one hand, and this is necessary to pick up if you want to dual wield shotguns or use a full 2-handed shotgun along with a shield. Needless to say, dual wielding shotguns is an absolutely devastating way to play the game. The expansion does add pistols, which basically function like shotguns that you can use with shields if you don't have this talent. To assist with this playstyle, Lawful Intervention lets you parry attacks with your ranged weapon and let you make attacks of opportunity if that weapon can be used in melee range, which of course shotguns can. So unlike most ranged builds, if you're using that shotgun, you want to be right in the thick of where the action is to maximize damage even when it's not your turn. Speaking of which, Prepare Prosecution lets you place the Arbitrator in a cell directly adjacent to an enemy during the tactical phase of combat, meaning right from the jump, you're in the perfect spot to be able to take advantage of attacks of opportunity. Keep in mind there's a bug with this talent right now where arbitrators will automatically take an attack of opportunity at the beginning of combat even if nothing has been triggered in order to allow them to do so. Alcan is working on this and it'll probably be fixed in another week or so take advantage of it while you can. On the subject of devastating attack of opportunity damage, Law and Order provides a bonus to the damage you deal when it's not your turn, and affected enemies must pass the willpower test or they become immobilized for 1 round. Shotguns have very limited range, so preventing enemies from running away is critical to your success. This extra damage scales with your willpower bonus, which probably won't be all that great, but at minimum the increase is 10%, so it's still well worth picking up. In case you need even more attacks of opportunity, Public Sentencing triggers when an adjacent enemy fails their willpower test for the first time in a round and provokes an attack of opportunity from you. This is a monster ability because there are many ways to force an enemy to try to pass a willpower test, and just about all of your party members are going to get access to those abilities. And all of a sudden, if you can force an enemy to fail that test, it basically counts as an attack, because not only will you shoot the enemy who failed it, but you're also going to end up shooting everyone behind that person. Absolutely devastating stuff. And to be frank, this in combination with the other AOO talents you get access to, in my mind, puts a well-constructed Arbitrator above Argenta as far as being the best damage dealer in the game. Now, being on the front line means you are going up against the most heavily armored enemies, and that's where armor piercing comes into play. Each of your successful attacks will reduce an enemy's armor by an amount that scales with your perception bonus for 1 round. The amount will be at least 12%, which more than doubles the armor piercing of many weapons. Arbidi's physical training provides a toughness bonus equal to half your shield's block rating. For most shields, this results in a plus 12 bonus to your toughness, and that obviously makes you more tanky. Speaking of being tanky, Binding Purpose is enabled as long as your wounds are above 90%, and it makes you immune to being blinded, disturbed, fatigued, perplexed, slowed, and staggered. To be honest, I never felt like enemies use these debuffs very much, but I only play on daring, so that might change at higher levels. Mob Justice causes all allies within 3 cells to deal an additional amount of damage that scales with your coercion rating. At minimum, this will be 5%, and keep in mind that familiars count as allies. Coercion is a core skill for arbitrators, so it should be very high, and this talent is worth considering. Pillar of the Law triggers after using a heroic act or desperate measure and provides a bonus to coercion and block that scales with your willpower bonus and lasts until the end of combat. Again, your willpower bonus is probably not crazy high, but the boost to coercion will be at least 10, so if you have an extra point, this is worth taking. Pacification procedures allows you once per turn to throw a grenade for 0 action points that does not count towards the attack limit per turn. However, the grenade cannot deal any damage upon impact. If you love using stun grenades, poison grenades, or similar options, this is definitely a must-have. Finally, the Steady Hand of Justice triggers when you use a one-handed shock baton, power maul, or power hammer. This talent provides a 10% bonus to parry and reduces the weapon skill of enemies hit with the weapon by 10 until the end of combat. All of that is just okay, but the real juice here is that it lets you deal 25% more crit damage with these weapons. That's a pretty massive boost, and there are a lot of ways to ensure your character consistently deals critical hits. Also, this expansion added more of those weapon types into the game, so you'll almost certainly find something that's to your liking. All right, that's it for all the general talents that you get access to no matter what you select. Now let's get into each of the specializations that are available under Arbitrator, starting with Vigilant, which is also the specialization your new party member Solomon has. This playstyle completely focuses on shotguns, and in my opinion, it's the best option on the list. You automatically receive a +5 bonus to ballistic skill, perception, and lore Imperium, along with a +10 bonus to coercion. It also ensures no matter what archetype you choose, you'll be able to advance ballistic skill, willpower, and coercion. This specialization also gives you 1 passive and 1 ability. Swift Justice is triggered when an enemy is attacked by you or your familiar and causes your shotguns to deal additional damage that scales with your coercion rating. At minimum, this passive provides a massive 40% buff, so when possible, it's very advantageous to have your familiar attack enemies first before you light them up. Again, check out my video in a couple of hours that breaks down all of the Overseer mechanics. The ability you get is Fulminating Shot, which is a shotgun attack that only deals half damage, but it reduces all impacted enemies' dodge, parry, and block by a percentage amount that scales with your coercion skill for 1 round, regardless of whether or not you successfully hit them. All you need to do is fire in the direction of the enemy and they are debuffed. Needless to say, this is a monster ability against well-protected bosses and can set them up for major damage. There are 2 other abilities associated with this specialization, but you don't automatically get them, so you have to select them while leveling up. Grisly Education is a shotgun attack that doubles the armor penetration of your shotgun and inflicts level of bleeding equal to your shotgun's maximum damage. This is fantastic against heavily armored foes, bosses who you know are going to get a turn before you can put them down, or it can also be great if you have someone like Marazai or an Executioner who benefits from attacking bleeding enemies. The second ability is Double Slug, and this allows you to make 2 single shots against an enemy. So basically it will do the same amount of damage as your other shotgun attacks, but only to 1 foe, as opposed to firing into a full cone. Keep in mind this shot will still have a significant amount of over penetration, so it's possible that the double slug is going to go through the enemy into one of your allies behind them. Still, I would highly recommend picking this up as it makes it easier to attack enemies who are surrounded by your allies. That's all for Vigilant, so now let's move over to Castigator. This specialization is all about debuffing enemies and controlling the battlefield. It's perfect for officers, but still overall I'm not all that impressed with it. You will automatically get a +5 bonus to Fellowship, Willpower, and Lore Imperium, along with a +10 bonus to Coercion. It also ensures no matter what archetype you choose, you'll be able to advance Fellowship, Willpower, and Coercion. This specialization also gives you 1 passive and 1 ability. Castigated is triggered when you or your familiar hits an enemy and applies a percentage penalty to the damage that foe can deal for 1 round. The percentage amount is at least 10 and it scales with your coercion skill, so this can be really nice. Death Sentence costs 1 action point and allows you to place an amount of death sentence stacks on enemies that scales with your coercion skill. Each stack increases your team's chance to critically hit the enemy by 1% and reduces their perception and willpower by 2. When an enemy under this effect suffers damage, they get 1 additional stack of death sentence. This lasts until the start of your next turn, and it's an interesting way to help your allies against a tough opponent. There are 2 other abilities associated with this specialization, but you don't automatically get them, so you have to select them while leveling up. That's an order, let you choose a cell within a 6 cell radius, and all enemies within 3 cells of you must make a successful willpower save or they immediately move to that cell. There's a penalty applied to the test that scales with your coercion bonus. I think Cassia has much better force movement options, but if for whatever reason you are not using her in that way, this is a decent secondary pick. In the Name of the Lex Imperialis lasts for 1 round and grants your entire party immunity to prone, stunned, immobilized, and cannot attack effects, along with all types of force movement. Enemies must pass a willpower test or they will be immobilized until your next turn. This test has a penalty that scales with your coercion skill, and it's a nice way to freeze enemies when you have them right where you want them. Again, all of this fits if you're an officer, but overall, I think this specialization has the lowest impact on your experience. Last on the list is Subductor, and this specialization focuses on shields. Shields are completely new to the game and a ton of fun to use, so if you aren't interested in shotguns, I would recommend this option. You will automatically get a +5 bonus to weapon skill, toughness, and lore imperium, along with a +10 bonus to coercion. Selecting this option also ensures no matter what archetype you choose, you'll be able to advance weapon skill, willpower, and coercion. This specialization also gives you 1 passive and 1 ability. Ruthless Suppression is triggered when there are 2 or more enemies in a 2 cell radius around you and makes both you and your familiar immune to critical hits, while also increasing your crit hit chance by a percentage amount that scales with your coercion skill. This bonus is always at least 10, so it's very nice. In addition, whenever the enemy gets up from being prone, they will provoke an attack of opportunity from you. That last part is very important due to the ability you get, Assault Onslaught. This allows you to dash through allies and enemies for up to 5 cells without provoking attacks of opportunity. Every enemy must pass an agility test or they fall prone until the start of their next turn. Similar to Charge, this ability can be used even if you have exhausted all of your movement points. That means if you are a warrior, you can use all of your movement points, dash 5 cells with this ability, and still use Charge. Early game warrior subductors are some of the most mobile characters on the battlefield, and that's very useful. Unlike the other specializations, subductors don't have extra abilities you can take. However, there are 4 shield specific common talents that have been added to the game. Before we break down the talents, I need to explain how shields work overall. All shields sit in your secondary weapon slot for both weapon sets. Therefore, it's not possible to wield a 2-handed weapon in either weapon set while also having a shield equipped. There's a talent to address this we will talk about in a bit. Shields are automatically going to provide a percentage shield block chance, which tells you how high the chance is that incoming attacks will be completely nullified by your shield. They also have a shield bash attack, which costs 1 action point to use and deals an amount of damage equal to your toughness and strength bonus combined. For most shields that I've seen, the first use of shield bash costs 0 action points, but it does still count towards your attack limit. It's still useful if you have an easy way to get a second attack, and shield bash is sufficient to defeat an enemy or trigger an effect. The other ability that all shields come with is all around defense. This allows you to mark a group of enemies and then immediately in your turn. You'll gain a 15% block bonus against those enemies, and if you successfully block their attack, you will automatically counterattack. Obviously, this works great for tank characters who are surrounded by the opposition. Alright, now let's circle back to the new common talents. Shield Mastery allows you to use a shield in only 1 weapon set, freeing up your other weapon set. Definitely something to consider if you want more flexibility. Defensive Maneuver is triggered when you use Shield Bash and allows you to regain 2 movement points. Using these points doesn't doesn't provoke attacks of opportunity. Subductors already have great movement, and 2 MP isn't all that great for other characters, so I would skip this. Instant Retribution is triggered when you block an attack and allows you to immediately use Shield Bash against the attacker if possible. If you make a counterattack that's triggered by all-around defense, then Shield Bash will directly follow it. If you are using a playstyle where you stand in the middle of traffic and get hit a lot, this is a beautiful option. Last on the list is Strong Hand, which increases your block by 5% and increases the damage from Shield Bash by 50%. Again, if you are running a playstyle based around getting hit and hitting back harder, this is a must-have talent. In addition to all this, there is one exemplar talent that has been added called Invincibility. You will gain additional deflection equal to 1/3 of your toughness rating. Most builds don't focus a lot on toughness, but if you happen to have a high rank, this will make you even more difficult to hit. That concludes my breakdown of the new Arbitrator origin. Again, if you haven't purchased Rogue Trader yet and you plan to do so, there's a GOG link below I recommend you check out. This video was already long enough, so we will review the Overseer archetype mechanics in a separate video that I'll release in a couple of hours. As always, if you have any questions, leave them below and I'll be happy to help. Hope all of you enjoyed this video. Take care.